Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Content is King. Today, presenting our webinar is Kim Stiglitz. She's here with our lifecycle marketing team, and joining us is a special guest, Allie Waters, and she's going to take us through some specifics about content ideas from the perspective of a small business owner. Just a couple of things before we get started. First of all, this is about 40 minutes, this webinar. At the end, there will be time for Q&A. So if you do think of questions along the way, go ahead and type those into the box that you see in your GoToWebinar window, and we'll be more than happy to answer as many of those questions as we can at the end. Now, one of the most popular questions that we get is this being recorded? And the answer is yes, we are recording this. We do put the recorded version of the webinar up on our website, our help site, about a week after the webinar. So if you want to go back and refresh your memory on what's going on with content ideas, you'll be able to do that next week. So with that, I am going to hand this over to Kim and Sally.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Kim Stiglitz, and as Jill said, I'm the Director of Lifecycle Marketing here at Vertical Response. And Sally is a Vertical Response customer and also the founder of Birdie Botanicals, which is a natural body and skincare company. And Sally founded the company back in December of 2007 and sent her very first email to launch her company. But since then, she's really grown the company by leaps and bounds, and in doing so, she has become a very accomplished content marketer. And I think something to really think about when you look at Sally's examples is a picture is worth 1,000 words. And as a very, very busy small business owner, I think she has more jobs than anyone I know. She does a great job at using a small amount of content, but other great things to really tell her story in a visual way that's very impactful. And though we come from very different angles, I represent more of a B2B side, and Sally represents more of the business to consumer side. We both agree that there's no better substitute than awesome content. So Sally and I actually were invited down to the Email Evolution Conference in Hollywood, Florida back in February. Seems like a long time ago already, just a month ago, to present this. And they actually wanted us to keep our topics pretty simple, and this was our agenda. We're going to talk about content overload. How do you overcome all of the competing things that are fighting for your subscribers' attention? How to keep it simple, how content is more than words, and how to socialize your content. How do you give your content that it factor? And we'll give you some very simple examples of some content we've seen that has that it factor. And this presentation will run about 40 minutes or so, depending how many stories I throw in. And then we'll have some time for a Q&A at the end. So if you do have questions as we're speaking, go ahead and type them into the question box, and we'll answer those at the end. So what is content marketing? I really like the way Joe defines it because he does so in a very content marketing way. He tells a story here. So content marketing is like the stock, like when you're making soup. It's really the building block ingredients for all of your company's dishes. No matter what you do with your marketing, if your content's not good, nothing else really matters. Doesn't matter if they open, doesn't matter if they click. If your content isn't up to snuff, it's likely that they won't ever click or open again. So why is it important to have good content? Well, the average person receives over 147 emails per day in their inbox and spends about 2.5 hours of their workday or personal day on email. But of those 147 emails, we delete about 71 of them in less than 5 minutes. So are we all just one click away from oblivion? Let's look at the state of the inbox and social. This slide literally says it all. In a very fast-paced email and social world, we have a ton to manage. More than 2.8 million emails were sent every second last year. 100 trillion emails were sent over the course of the year. So it's an insane amount of just content and information. And then you can see the information about Facebook here. You know, Facebook's like its own country. If it was, it would be the third largest. You know, these are insane figures. So let's really dive in and talk about, you know, how is our one little email going to get out and stand out in that inbox? And this is our friend Tom. And, as I was looking at content for this, I thought, is this the best advice ever? Tom says his solution to email overload is to use filters to collect all his important emails into a very special folder, and then he never opens it. Well, that's not what we want, right? We don't want to get filtered so our readers never see it. So we have to make our content stand out. Awesomeness truly does count. Scott says he's unsubscribing from every email, every newsletter, and every blog that doesn't make him say awesome when he reads it. So think about your own inbox. Take a scan of it now, because I'm sure a lot of you are, multitasking as you're listening to this, but come back and listen too. Look in your inbox, and, most of us kind of go through and triage our inboxes, whether it's on our mobile device on the way to work, if we're not driving, or, when we get in and we're looking at who is it from, what is the subject line. There's a lot of different ways people kind of decide what to open. But how many of those messages ever make you say awesome? Not too many. How many are even memorable? Not too many. And then flip that. And how many of the messages that you're sending are awesome? How many are memorable? How many are actually getting the end result that you want? It might not be, the button that's in it. It might actually be the actual content. So we have to really think about these things. So this is a great stat. So over 60% of business-to-business marketers reported that they are tailoring content by solution use case. So what does the end user need to know? What is the end user? Is it by vertical? Are they segmenting? So it's very good and compelling that people are catching on to this and knowing that they can't just do the term Jill and I loathe, one email blast. It's not a one-size-fits-all. How do you stand out with all of these things competing for your reader's attention? So let's get into the nitty-gritty of the content. The best marketers and salespeople truly are storytellers. So let's think about it. Let's break it down. When you actually are going to write a blog post or send an email, what's your story? Why are you sending this message? Why should your audience even care? Do they care about this? Do you care more than your audience? If that's the case, then you might not even want to send it. In order to engage and connect with your audience, you have to put them first. Have they asked for this information? When they signed up, are you giving them what you promised them? And will they ask for it in the future? Because you might get that initial open or that initial click, but if your content's not good, it doesn't matter. They won't come back. They won't invite you into that circle of trust. You won't be those messages that they open and engage with. So really thinking about your metrics, and it's really about getting your reader to do what you want or what you need them to do with this message and doing it in an engaging way. So some content ideas. So content is designed for a couple of different things. To educate. Jill knows a lot about this. All of her messages are really meant to inform and educate our audiences. Sometimes they're meant to inspire. Sometimes they're meant to aspire and initiate people into a new way of doing things. There's a great content marketer that I really admire. His name is Brian Clark, and he's from Copyblogger. And he does one of the best jobs I've seen of anyone really working popular culture in his daily blogs. Pop culture can, be a great thing to connect with their audience, and he does things like talking about celebrities or TV shows like Mad Men. It's about to come back up on Sunday night, so he's working that in. Current events, anything else that's top of mind. And what Brian does is he does a Google search on trending topics. So he already knows what topics people are talking about, and then he can work a blog into that topic. So he knows that there's already traffic on that term, and then he's working his blog into that. And if you've never read his blogs, definitely check it out on copyblogger.com. He does a wonderful job of this. Cause marketing can also be great content ideas. If any of you have heard of those shoes called Toms, they're very prevalent here in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Not in this office.
Yes, not only comfy but cute, but they also are cause marketing. So for every pair of Toms you buy, they give a pair to someone in need. And their emails really stand out because they always have that message first and foremost, because it's a way that they really connect with their audience. Controversy. Controversy can get a lot of engagement, but there's also risk to that. And we have an example later in our presentation that talks about Tim Tebow. And it begs the question, is Tim Tebow actually a better content marketer than a quarterback? And we'll show you why we think he may be. And I'm a Gators fan, so it's okay if I say that. So these are all great concepts, and I also wanted to add in funny. Funny can be a great way to connect, but again, watch the line on this one. It's especially with B2B. I have an upcoming blog post about this. Between funny and going over the line is a fine line. So being funny and having humor, and Sally's going to show you this because she walks this line perfectly. And these are all great concepts, but I want to show you how Sally puts this into action. So Sally, how do you do it?
Hi, everybody. So yes, I'm Allie Waters. I have Birdie Botanicals. As Kim said, I launched my business in December of 2007, and I actually started that day with my very first email blast. So I'm hoping that explaining a little bit of my process will help you guys with yours. So where I start, first I try to know my business. What am I selling? Who's my customer? What kind of relationship do I want to have with my customer? How do I want to relate and interact with them? I really try to set an appropriate tone for my business. I particularly use humor and whimsy to reach out to people. And about my customer, I have to know what their needs are. How do I improve the quality of their life with what I do? How do I solve their problems? I really look directly at them. How do they use my product and information? I also try to look at myself as a consumer. I mean, what emails am I opening? What am I deleting? What kind of information do I want to hear? I think it's important to keep it light. For me, I try to be approachable. I try to be safe. I guarantee my product 100%, so I try to remind people about this all the time. I try to, encourage people to try it out, so they know they can return it if it's not working for them. I also try to keep it light by not using heavy terminology or industry lingo, unless it's appropriate. I mean, I try to use layman's terms. It suits my business better. I'm not an esthetician or a dermatologist, so I kind of have to relate to people about sensitive skin. So,
and I think, Sally, you really do a great job of that as far as addressing something, and that's a great thing for content marketing, is addressing an obstacle that your prospect or your consumer may have. So if it's, skin that's sensitive, or it's tired feet, or whatever that might be, some of the best content marketing is really addressing an obstacle.
Right. Excellent. So next I find my hook. This is one of my biggest obstacles that I experience when I'm trying to get my next campaign going. Basically, I refer to synonyms, antonyms. I use web searches for rhymes, idioms, phrases. For one example, I was thinking to give them the old 1-2 punch. I thought of boxing terms. That took me to cleansers and dirt, fighting dirt. Sometimes Birdie is a fictional character, so she's got lots of fictional friends. You'll see some of these examples in a few minutes on some other slides. I try to use pop culture, change of season, trendy ingredients. Wherever I can find it, I grab it. If I can get a good hook or a subject, then an email can write itself most of the time, once I just get that one idea. I also use humor. I try to relate and entertain people. I try to give them that little giggle throughout the day. But I have to, like Kim said on the earlier slide, you have to keep it simple. Sometimes I can get caught up and try to be funny and lose my message, and I have to go back and edit the whole thing out. Sometimes it can only really be one line. So we start with the concept. Here we have the anti-aging lotion, anti-aging serum. This is a great go-to subject for me. Anti-aging, people love it. Most people are interested in it, so it's always great to have a go-to subject. It's always good. So basically, when I start with a concept, I try to think, am I going for the hard sell? Am I picking a product, a feature? Am I giving it features and uses? Am I solving a common problem? Am I giving away valuable information to gain their trust? I mean, sometimes you have to completely skip the hard sell and give things away, as far as information, that is, because then you gain their trust. So next we're going to tell the story of the anti-aging serum. You have to flesh it out. Here we had the before and after picture. You basically have to consider that your audience has a really short attention span and very little patience, so you kind of have to really grab them right away. I try to use bullet points in strategic places and make it scannable. I have someone read it over for me. You have to really let yourself, let your ego go. You have to let people tell you whether or not your message is coming through. You have to edit, and edit some more. Delete all unnecessary words. One of our colleagues at this Florida conference we went to used the term word diet. So you have to consider every single word and whether it helps your concept. If not, get rid of it.
And this is really the slide, I think this one, and we got such a reaction out of this slide at the conference just because, it tells the story with, very little text. And we're not showing the entire email because there's text below this. But we thought this was such a powerful kind of hero image with just, a sentence at the top. But it's showing this is an anti-aging serum. And here's the before, the kind of crackly lady. And then after, she's like, ah. So a picture really can be worth 1,000 words. So, yeah.
Excellent. So on the next example, here I wanted to sell massage lotion. This is during Christmas. It worked really well because of the peppermint scent. It was natural for the season. So I was trying to figure out, how do I sell it? It's for tired feet, achy muscles. How do I go about this? My idea on this next slide was elves. Well, they work really hard. They have tired feet. They have achy muscles. So this one really kind of came together pretty easily. And this is one of Bertie's imaginary friends, as I mentioned before. I always try to get my graphics to support my text. It's really important. So next, my voice. When it comes to my voice, I try to be natural. I try to be real. I write like I talk. I feel like it gives me sincerity, personality, and flavor. I try to write like I'm having a conversation with you, like you're my friend. I try to be approachable and not clinical. This is my brand. So again, like I said, I'm not an esthetician or a dermatologist. So I relate to people about sensitive skin. I try to take the fear factor out of it. Again, skincare can be scary. Again, I guarantee my product. I try to have fun with it and just make it safe and approachable.
And, this is an important point in that Sally has a very, she has a small list of highly engaged clients. These are a lot of people she's met face-to-face. She's had a ton of word-of-mouth customers. So she has a very comfortable kind of conversational tone in her emails. And, she's getting very high open rates. So she has a very engaged audience. And, they're in their life cycle. They're not, brand new to her list mostly. These are people who are repeat purchasers, things like that. So she can go there with her voice. She can be very conversational. It's spot on for her brand. It's very appropriate. Now we know in B2B, we might not be that conversational. We might not, be as kind of jokey and things like that. So this is really representing, Sally's story, but we all have to take this and filter it for what's right for our businesses as well. So, one of the things I love and I look forward to when I do get Sally's emails are, they are like getting an email from a friend, and I welcome them. It's like I get like kind of this 5-minute little break to kind of like read and like find out some new things, and at the end she always signs them, "Peace out, Sally," which I love because I don't get any emails that say "peace out." But, if that was coming from a salesperson who was trying to sell me, some new technology, I might not be as open to peace out, Yeah. So remembering where these things work and where they don't.
Right. So on this next slide, this was an avatar email. This one this email involved from a Facebook company that posted a picture of herself with my blue clay mask on. So it was just right before Halloween. Avatar was huge at the moment. It just kind of all came together. again, my graphics and my content are always going together. We took an altered stock photo, dyed it blue, and I used a website that translated language from the Na'vi. That was a fun one.
That's great. You're really starting with a theme and building on it, and in a very simple way, getting your message across and tying it back to the products that you want to sell. And it's not over the top. It's kind of perfect.
Thank you. So ultimately, I try to keep it simple. I hook them with the subject line. Subject lines are a fine art. I write it, I rewrite it, I write it again and again and again. I try to be quick and snappy, but be specific to what the email is going to address. But I think you could do a whole show. I mean, you have done whole shows on subject lines, but
Indeed.
It's always a work in progress. It's always a work in progress. So again, I engage them with graphics. I have access to some great designers who really understand my message. So we work really well together. I think Kim used the word at one point, symbiotic. That the graphics and the content go together. So I really strive to do that. Reel them in with clever copy. That's what I do. That's what I have to do. I close them with great call to action. I often have two calls to action. More and more I get to the point where I tell people exactly what I want them to do. I want them to take this discount code. I want them to go, and I want them to get an extra savings on their product. I think it's important. You can tell people exactly what you want them to do.
That's the best CTA of all. Your readers should never have to guess what you want them to do. And if you are having two calls to action, just make sure you have your primary, which is your strongest one, and then more of a supporting call to action that's further down in the message or is not as prominent.
Right.
And a lot of these things are great to test. And if you're wondering, how much your content marketing is making a difference, you can test these things, and I know Sally's a big fan of testing. You can really make kind of two copies of your message, one that you take it a little further and one that you stay a little more conservative, and kind of see what gets the better engagement by your clicks, by your opens, and ultimately what you're wanting them to do with the message, so you can really start to put your foot into the water without taking a lot of risk.
So some simple examples of what I've done in the past. Here's another one of Birdie's imaginary friends, is Santa Claus. It was simple. Santa is the ultimate delivery man, so we did a free shipping campaign with this one. The next slide, we did a little, just a Dear Santa letter. It had some product placement right in there. It was kind of a little call to action and illustration all in one. The next one.
On that one, if you could go back for 1 second, because you're not giving yourself enough credit. This is where the personality comes in, is on the asterisk too. Like FYI, I've been really good. Then there's this note, okay, maybe a bit naughty, but there were some extenuating circumstances. This is Sally really putting her personality in and kind of drawing you in, because who can't relate to that, right? Like, I've been really good. Okay, maybe not so good.
We like to have fun.
And this next slide is what we looked like when we got done with Florida.
Yes. Yes. This one is great. This guy is kind of like a little mascot of mine. We use him all the time. I think it's really important to, when you get a good illustration or graphic or whatever, to use it in different places. This is a panel on my home page, and it was also, we put it in an email campaign. So it's a simple message. Sunburn, it's pretty evident. Jelly lotion to the rescue.
So simple. Like, this took you probably, besides the graphic, minutes, right? Like, just simple.
Right. Exactly. Simple message. One idea, one message. That's really all you can do. So why less is more? It's easy to scan. You really, like I just said, you have to keep the idea down to one idea. If you have more than one, then you'll just lose people. So you have to let your message and your call to action stand out. It takes less time to create content. I mean, if you have an idea with multiple ideas, then those are like separate emails. I mean, a lot of times I'll write an email, and if I've got more than one idea or concept in there, I'll really step back and say, is this 2 emails? Is this 3? Maybe this is a whole series. So you really have to consider these ideas, and it's just an automatic more content.
And we get that a lot. We hear that a lot, Jill and I, in doing these webinars. A lot of the presentations that we do, where people either are like, "I have no content," and then we go on their website, we're like, "Are you kidding me? Look at all this great content. We could write like 20
right,
Or they send out the biggest, longest email you've ever seen, where you're scrolling for like 5 years, and it's like, this could have been a whole series.
Right.
And we're not saying go out and email every day. My goodness, no. But really looking at, does this stand out? Is this something that can stand on its own, or does it need to really be squished in here with 20 other ideas? Newsletters are a great place where you're going to put news and some content. We're not saying everything has to be kind of a solo, one idea, one message, but really making sure that those messages are able to stand out and to connect with your audience. Okay, so Sally did a great job of showing us the power of images, and I think you can all attest now of having that really strong, graphic in your message that makes that connection and, doesn't require a lot of support through a lot of words and text, because people don't have a lot of time. They've got 5 to 8 seconds for them to look at that message and move on, so making it quick and easy to scan, and Sally does a great job with that. But there's a lot more than just images that we should consider. There's video, which is becoming more and more prevalent, and getting more accessible to include in your emails, and will become so, even more so, over the next few years. Infographics. We are in total love with infographics here at Vertical Response, and I'm going to show you an example or two of that. But you don't have to have a graphic designer or a creative team in order to have infographics. There's actually a free website, Visually, where you can go on and create some infographics for your own business. And you can even do a Google search on infographics and how to design them. And they are a great way of getting a lot of information across in a very small space, and they're very kind of viral and very social. Charts, they're a little bit more old school. Kind of infographics are the new chart, but I'll get into that more. Live and recorded demos like this. This is a great way to get content across, and then recording it and making it accessible for other people who couldn't attend the live version to attend. And then user-generated content, quotes, testimonials, stories. At Vertical Response, I send a survey out, a customer satisfaction survey every month to our active customers, and ask them to rate us, and say, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or a coworker? And it's a scale of 10 to 0. For the folks that give us a 9 and a 10, I send them $100. No, I'm kidding. We basically send them down a path that says, share your story. You gave us a 9 or 10. How has Vertical Response helped you drive your business? Or, how have we helped you succeed? And they write a couple quick sentences, and then we're able to have that live hosted on our website. So when a new prospect comes to Vertical Response and they're sort of evaluating, they can access these customer stories and see, there's pages and pages of these stories of businesses like them that are using us and having success with us. So user-generated quotes and testimonials are very powerful, and we can use those quotes and testimonials in other places like our email campaigns, throughout our website, in our blog. So they're very powerful. To take a quick look at video, YouTube is now streaming 4 billion online videos daily. And there's 60 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every minute. So while we've been on here, there's been lots of hours uploaded. A lot. And if you think it's just a bunch of college kids, it's certainly not true. 75% of Fortune 500 executives view online video at work. And they're not just watching, TV shows. So video is a great way to connect with your audience and stand out. And right now, as it's changing and evolving, we recommend to host your video on YouTube or someplace else, and then take a screenshot of it and link that within your email so that it renders across all the different browsers. And you can get very creative. We actually have a winery customer. We have quite a few winery customers, but one in particular that stands out for me is a great piece of content marketing. they wanted to do a day in the life at the winery. And if we picture that in our mind, we can, kind of picture the people in the, tasting room or the guys out in the field picking the grapes. But what they did is they did a day in the life at the winery from the perspective of their winery dog. I mean, that's brilliant to me because marketing 101, it's like kids and pets are very engaging. And then they took, this video from the perspective of the dog walking around the winery and kind of his comments, and it's pretty brilliant. I'll have to include the link next time. So that's a great piece. So infographics, as I said, infographics are a fun and interesting way to look at statistical data and information. They're really easy to scan, as you can see here. This talks about the top 5 most active Twitter moments. This is outdated at this point because they're constantly being updated. But instead of, charts and graphs where you really have to kind of dig in and try to understand them and look at the, the axis and everything, this gives you all of the information up front in a very visual way. And Copyblogger has a great infographic called 22 Ways to Create, let me start over, 22 Ways to Create Compelling Content When You Don't Have a Clue. That's a great one to Google because it gives you just very hands-on tips. So these are really eye-catching, they're very simple, and you can create them yourself using a third party or visually. As I talked about the videos, we want to talk about day in the life. You can also do a customer testimonial video, and you'll see these throughout, the website if you're looking. And somebody like, in Sally's business, she could do something like a how-to video. She could do, how to use this product successfully. We use an example down in Florida. I had someone who was a hairdresser, and she said, I have no idea what to do. And I said, why don't you do a video on how to get a great blowout of your hair? Everybody wants that really nice straight hair. And she did a whole series of different things on, within her email. It was how to get a great blow dry, but then also how to pick the perfect brush, and here's the complementary products to use. So really shaping that content, you pick that theme. Hers was, getting this great blow dry, and she did a whole theme around it and wrapped all the content around it. So at the end of the day, this was a very content-rich email that she sent out. So as we touched upon a little bit, how can you improve your content? Be yourself and be authentic. Only you know your business like you do. There's nobody else. You couldn't hire Jill or I to, come in and, we're pretty good copywriters, if I do say so myself. But only you know your business. Only you know the stories. Only you know the day-to-day inner workings. And be a storyteller, right? Because if you know all these things about your business, think about digging into those things that someone from the outside might not know about a product or about, a function or about an employee within your business that has a great story, has a great background that you can tell. Be a great storyteller, but do it Jenny Craig style. Be on that word diet. And make sure your content is easy to share. We're going to share some tips on this. And at the end of the day, if you love what you do, if you are your business, then your content will show that as well. So again, be awesome. And these are words to live by when you're going to write all of your campaigns and your different content. Think of Scott. Does this say awesome? To somebody else who's reading this, does this say awesome? We have a very strict QA policy here at Vertical Response. Before we send something out, we have about 5 people who proofread it. And, different messages have different tone and things like that. But it's great when you write a blog post and you send it out, and we all sit in sort of a big circle, and you hear people as they're reading your blog, you can hear them chuckling, or they'll say, wow, that's a great line, or, and those are the kinds of reactions you want to get, and we're a pretty hard audience on ourselves and on each other. So think about it and, give it to other people who aren't so close to the content and see how they engage with it. If they're like, yeah, it looks fine, did you break through? Were you able to get that content to kind of have that piece of awesomeness to it? So making it really awesome, that's going to make it go social. So how social is your content? Make sure you keep it shareable. After you've created your content, it's important to make it so easy to share. And if you follow a few of these tips, that will make it that much easier. Your audience, just like they shouldn't have to figure out what they have to do with a message, they shouldn't have to work hard to share it, or they won't. So include sharing links. Very old school, forward to a friend. That's one of the first social things ever, right? You're not going to pick up tons and tons of people this way, but it's a great way to expose your message to a new audience, and it comes with good kind of content. It comes with a lot of context if someone's saying, I think you'll like this content, and they share it with me. Including social sharing links and vertical response allows you to do this. You can share to Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn all the messages that you send. And then also on blog posts, if you have a blog, make sure that you have all of your social links on there. And many of us have had, LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook, but now there's Google Plus to ensure that that's on there. And even Pinterest. We just added a pin it button to our blog last week because Pinterest is one of the most fast-growing social networks out there. And if you have a business like Sally that's skincare, 97% of the users on Pinterest right now are women. So I would be jumping on that Pinterest bus fast. So, make it easy for them to share. And then cross-promote your content. You're working really hard to create this content that's good, that's compelling, that's awesome. Take it and cross-populate it. So if you have blog summaries, you can include those in your newsletters. If any of you get the VR Buzz newsletter, one of the first pieces of content in it is the 3 blog posts from the prior week, because we know not every single person out there reads the blog, so we want to give them another chance to see it and to interact with it in a different channel. I often ask the question, and Sally heard me ask it in Florida, how many of you get 100% open rate on your email? No one has ever answered that unless it's to one person who's their mom.
Right.
So you have to give people an opportunity to engage with your message in multiple ways. So put your blogs in your newsletters, take content that you're putting in your email solo, put it on your blog, really making sure these things, as Sally said, are symbiotic, that they really, support each other. And if you're wondering how you're doing, look at your engagement. The open rate is not the be-all, end-all if you're sending an email. You really want to focus on engagement. So looking at your click-through rate, and then ultimately your conversion. If your click was a button that said buy now, how many people actually bought? That's your success metric. And then if you're using social media, focus on the engagement in Facebook Insights. So Facebook Insights will tell you how many people commented, how many people liked, and it will actually give you a breakdown of those people. So that's when you know, should I be posting more? Should I be posting less? What kind of content that I'm posting, to Facebook is actually getting that engagement? Are people commenting? At VR here, we have a joke because when our CEO brings her dog in, Dwight, if we put a picture of Dwight on our Facebook page, we get so much engagement. He blows away any content we put on there. So we're like, all right, just bring Dwight in. And as Sally said, with all of your content, test, and then start again. It's kind of like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. Just when you're done testing, you start at the other end and come back. That's never something you can stop doing. And in thinking about what things are social, I want to talk about that it factor. What makes it stand out? I mean, any of us could think off the top of our head, something that's kind of popular right now, and why is it popular? This is a few years ago, but there is a commercial that's actually on YouTube called the Swagger Wagon. And the Swagger Wagon is a minivan. So when they put this video up on YouTube, it was a spin on pop culture, and it has over 10 million views. I'm actually going to, Jill, flip to the next slide so you can see it. I just have a freeze frame of it, so I don't know if any of you saw this, but when you think about the minivan, you picture it, it's usually with disdain. It's sort of the kiss of death of your cool life when you get a minivan, back when you were single and driving your cute car, and then you get married and you have a couple kids, and it's like, oh, it's time to get the minivan. And you're like, oh my gosh, my life will never be cool again. But what was so great about this video was they made it very cool. They made it fun, and they played on a lot of stereotypes. So they had this kind of mid-class, suburban family rapping about their minivan, and it was just spot on, and it has 10 million views. So if that tells you anything, it really had that it factor. So now we're going to get to Tim Tebow. Why does he have that it factor? Well, just a few stats. He had the #1 best-selling jersey before he ever stepped foot on the field as a Bronco. We'll see where he ends up.
Yes.
There's a video on YouTube of his 80-yard winning pass. It had almost 100,000 views. And then these were a couple of blog posts that talk about, Tim Tebow and sort of the spin around him and this Tebow mania. We wrote a blog about it. Mythic Marketer wrote a blog about what he teaches us about content marketing. And Digital Sherpa talks about how he broke all of these social media records. And you can see there's a little piece from Twitter that says last night he led the Denver Broncos to an overtime playoff win and a new tweets per second record. There were almost 10,000 tweets per second after this happened. So there's a ton of just it factor to this guy. And, love it or hate it or think it's completely irrelevant, it's generated a nationally recognized consumer brand. And, there's so many discussions and spin around this. And, the night he and the Broncos beat the Steelers, he had John 3:16 written on his little patches. And that was the most searched term on Google that night. And it didn't hurt that he actually threw for 316 yards, and his average was 31.6. So mysterious ways these content marketers have, mysterious ways. I just wanted to show you a quick example of a Facebook page for a very social brand, which most of us know, CocaCola, if you haven't heard of it. Coca-Cola and Starbucks are two of the top 100 Facebook pages. And why I picked this particular example is because you would think Coca-Cola would have some big thing about Coke on their page. But what they have is when you go on and you haven't liked them before, you get this nice welcome page, and it says, like Coke, there's a button for that. They're not saying, like us. They're just saying, you like us? Here, there's a button for that. And they're doing a nice thing here is they have some cause marketing, which we talked about on one of the most beginning slides. And they're using this popularity. They have 37, almost 38 million people who've liked them. I know, it's a lot of Coca-Cola. And they're using this for cause marketing. They're working with the World Wildlife Fund to create a safe haven for polar bears because polar bears are in the, getting close to extinction rate. So when you have 37 million followers, it's great that you can do some cause marketing like this and have it be incredibly powerful. So thinking about, your social and how you can even work cause marketing into that.
I also like that they include information on how to find them on other social platforms, so Twitter, YouTube, and Flickr as well, places that are going to work really well for their followers.
And this is what we were saying about really cross-pollinating and making it easy to share because they know they have something, they're doing a good thing here, so why not make that easier and make it easier for these 37 million people to connect with them in their other channels too. Okay, so now reality time. What about all those obstacles as we all face them? And, we know the reality too. It's, you're a small business, you're wearing a lot of hats, or you're a big business and you're wearing a lot of hats. These biggest obstacles are your time. And as we've said, if you can really take those pieces of content marketing and focus on one idea, keep it short and sweet, keep it simple, time should become less of an issue. Don't try to do 10 things. Try to do 1 or 2, but do them really well, and your engagement may prove to be stronger than if you had done the 10. Being proactive, but in real time. So, getting ahead of the curve. So if you're looking and, you're kind of looking at what's trending on Google and you're thinking about what's coming up, is there going to be some big event like the Oscars that you can leverage off of as a theme, or a movie, or something like that where you can bring it into the pop culture. That way you're thinking about it, you're upfront, you're being planful, but then you have a real-time theme as well. And then feeling like you have to do it all. This can be a big obstacle for many of us, especially when we're wearing a lot of those hats and we're the sole proprietor and we're doing our emails and we're doing all the writing. Just trying to be as proactive as you can and break it down and asking for help. And, I know, Sally, you have a team of people, maybe 1 or 2, that actually does the graphics for you. So she tells them, this is my concept. They actually put in the graphic, and then she's able to put in the text. So just having that little bit of help on the graphic really helps her, move forward and connect and engage with her audience because she's able to focus on the supporting copy.
I think it's also important to remind yourself that it's a constant work in progress, that you kind of develop your voice and your style as you go along, and you're never going to get it all right all the time. And you have to kind of just jump in with both feet and go for it.
Absolutely.
For me.
Absolutely, for all of us, I think. So just remember, what's your story? What are you trying to say? What do you want them to do? Keep it simple. Make it easy to share. And be awesome, so we don't end up in that folder. And Jill's going to go over some resources to keep you going after this webinar.
Yeah, so we do have resources, and I'm going to leave this slide up while we do Q&A. But our blog actually is a great resource for all things marketing, email, social, any kind of marketing you're looking to do. We have a lot of information on our blog, and definitely there are blog posts there for content and content ideas. We also have some guides, and our guides are free. The easiest way to get to them is just to go to our website, verticalresponse.com, click on the Resources tab, and you'll see where it says Free Marketing Guides. And these are some that will help you get started with some of the things that we talked about today. Email plus social media, what every small business needs to know. So you can learn how to keep your email and social media together and social. 8 email marketing basics to remember, which kind of go through some of the things that we talked about today, and also will help you make sure that your email marketing is successful. So like I said, I'm going to leave this up here. Also, our help site is help.verticalresponse.com, and that's where the recorded webinar will be next week. So look for that.